Hello and welcome to the editorial analysis of the Hindu. Today we shall be discussing the editorial of the 30th of May. So coming to the first article, breaking out of the middle growth orbit. Now the context of this article is with regards to some challenging economic agenda that is faced by the new government. There are a plethora of articles that are coming in this line only, that is the economic challenges that are faced by the present government. So in that context, this is another article, but this article has only few points which we can extract and which are relevant for us. Now the first issue that is important for us is with regards to the non-banking finance companies. Now first and foremost, you need to know about the NBFCs. These are companies which provide banking services. So despite the fact that these are providing banking services, they are not considered as banks, but rather they are listed as companies. So this is about the NBFCs. Now at present in India, the NBFCs are facing several challenges is what has been discussed in this particular editorial. Now what has happened here is that all these NBFCs are facing a liquidity crunch. Now why is it that this liquidity crunch is being faced by these NBFCs? Is because of the functioning of these NBFCs. The entire model of their functioning is such that they take money from the customers on a short term, and then the short term money is what is lended for long term. It is expected by them, the entire model is what is at risk or at all times, because money is what is being taken in short term and it is being lended at long term. The only idea for the successful functioning of NBFCs is that they believe that this short term flow of money will continuously keep coming to the NBFCs. But what has happened at present is that there is a credibility crisis of the NBFCs. And why is this credibility crisis taking place? Because one major NBFC, which is the IL&FL, this was the name of an NBFC. It stands for Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Services, IL&FS, I'm sorry. So this is one NBFC company which has been shut down. So after this, a fear is what was created in the minds of the people who had invested their monies in NBFCs, who had deposited their monies. And what happened is that all the people suddenly wanted their money back from NBFCs. And as a result of which, these companies are facing a liquidity crunch because they do not have monies to provide back to people who have deposited their monies in the NBFCs, because they have lent out that money for long-term investments. So that is one issue that is being faced by the NBFCs. And this is one of the pressing problems for the new government, and a liquidity infusion is what is required for all the NBFCs, is what the editorial is discussing. So this is what has been the first issue that is important here. The second issue that is being advocated vis-a-vis the economic agenda is to increase the consumption. The consumption in India is what is continuously falling. Demand is what is falling. Especially demand is what is measured in the context of manufactured vehicles. That is what is one of the parameters to judge the consumption in an economy. And it is at an 8-year low at present. So all of this is what is signifying that there is a need to increase consumption. Now how can consumption be increased? If money available with people will be more, then obviously they will spend it and consumption will increase. Now how can this money be increased? This can be increased if taxes are what are reduced. So what taxes need to be reduced? First and foremost, income tax should be reduced. Then corporate tax is what should be reduced. Corporate tax is already reduced to 25%, but this is for 99% of the companies. Remaining 1% of the companies which are in the top, which are the topmost companies of India, are still paying a high degree of corporate tax. So the editorial is saying that some risk is what the government should take. It should even bring these 1% of the companies under this particular ambit, and also it should reduce the income tax on the middle class so that they will have more money to consume more. So that is what has been argued in this particular editorial. Next, the editorial is calling for effective GST implementation. Now, there is no doubt that GST was a major step taken by the government. It was a landmark in income tax, or in taxation structure for that matter, because this is an indirect tax. But what is important vis-a-vis the GST implementation is that this be made much more efficient. What is required is that at present the 6 slabs be reduced down to 3 is what the editorial is advocating. So these are some suggestions that are being made in the editorial. If you have an opportunity to discuss about the challenges that Indian economy is facing, so that is where you can bring out these 3 points from this particular editorial, and that is the relevance for General Studies paper 3 in mains. That is the importance. Coming to the next article, why the integrity of data matters. Now the context of this article is that recently the government has announced that it will be merging the NSSO with the CSO. The NSSO stands for the National Sample Survey Office, and the CSO is the Central Statistics Office. So now both of these institutions are going to be merged. Rather, the NSSO is what is going to be subsumed by the CSO. So this is the entire context. This article is important, but a large part of this article is discussing that how data is collected, how it is analyzed, how reports are prepared. So that is a little technical aspect which is not relevant for us. I shall be limiting my discussion to analysis which is relevant for us and which we can make use in our answers. So first and foremost, you need to know that the primary data of the NSSO is what is available to the public. This was after a lot of struggle that the government finally announced that yes, it would allow the primary data that NSSO is collecting be made available. And this is one piece of data that is being used extensively by students, by experts, to make some comparisons, to come up with theories. So this is somehow very, very important. It is very relevant, and this is why this aspect is what is important. Another thing that is important is the respect that this institution has garnered over the years. Now, it is known for a reputation of professionalism, it is known for its independence, it is known for its integrity. So NSSO has a lot of respect, and thus it is not warranting being subsumed under the CSO, is what the editorial is arguing. Now, another issue that is very, very important is with regards to scrutiny after merger. Now, I just told you that this primary data is what is openly available in the public domain, and it was after a lot of demands by the citizens that this was what was allowed by the government. Now, once this data is going to be a part of the CSO, then that data is what is going to come under the scrutiny of the government. And as a result of it, review of this data, the publication of this data is what will become subject to government approval. So this is one thing that is a cause of concern, that this major data that is being released is what is going to be stopped, or if not stopped, at least checked by the government. This will not be available as well as it is being available right now. So this is one major criticism that is coming along vis-a-vis the merger of the NSSO under the CSO. Another issue is with regards to the credibility of the Indian statistical system. Now, again, the editorial is discussing that if in this institution which is highly respected is not going to exist, then this will be a deterrent to the credibility of the Indian statistical system. And another thing which is important is some suggestions that are given. The editorial is saying that even though NSSO is efficiently working, but still definitely there is a scope for improvement in the NSSO. It faces a problem of budget, that is, there is a less budgetary allocation to the NSSO, which might be improved if it becomes a part of the CSO. Also, there is a shortage of trained staff, which also might be solved if it merges with the CSO. Also, often it conducts surveys which are unmanageably of a large scale. So as a result of which, to solve these problems, the government is planning to merge it. But the editorial in its last and final opinion is suggesting that simply by merging it with the CSO will not resolve all the problems. Rather, government needs to take up the case of NSSO independently and resolve these problems, make these improvements vis-a-vis the staff, vis-a-vis the budgetary allocation, and also ensuring that the large sample surveys that are being conducted are not unmanageable, rather than outrightly merging it with the CSO. So that is what has been analyzed in this particular article. This is a technical question if it comes, but nevertheless you should be prepared for it. So that is going to be the relevance of this particular article. So that's about today's discussion, and I thank you all for watching the video.